some of the things that I learned while working at a university with students regarding their kind of learning strategies and trying to help them address their concerns when it comes to studying, note taking, organization, anything like that. These are kind of common solutions and concerns that I found while working in that position. I've chosen to concentrate on organization, a little bit of memory, and then a lot of scheduling. So if that seems like something that could be beneficial to you, then stick around and we can talk about some of my experiences. Thing that we're going to talk about is having a clean workspace. So in the top right here, you can see an example of something that would be a very well organized, good workspace. The benefits of having a clean workspace are that it lessens your distractions and thus kind of moves away from procrastination, which honestly is probably the number one thing that students struggle with, especially with online school. So if you remove distractions, put your phone in a drawer, move all of your little papers, things that could call your attention away from the task at hand, then you're less likely to be distracted. Creating a mind palace. So this is a concept that is good and encouraged by cognitive science. So essentially what it is you're starting to create connections in the place that you regularly study to the work that you're trying to memorize. So for example, say you have a theory that's challenging to memorize, you really need to know it for your test though, you would start creating examples that relate to your personal life that also include objects that you see in your mind palace, in your space that you're working, so in this case on your desk. So for example, if you have a theory that you need to memorize, you would create an example that relates to your personal life that includes a laptop. So include the word laptop somewhere in there, and then when you're writing the exam, if you see the laptop, now you have a memory connection and you're more likely to be able to recall that information when your memory is triggered by seeing your laptop. If you're writing online exams, then that's perfect. The laptop is definitely going to be there, but just make sure that whatever environment you're creating for yourself mirrors an exam as much as possible. So have your pencils, calculator, whatever is going to be beside you when you're writing your exam or doing your assignment, whatever. Those are the memory triggers that you want to start associating with. And then the last part, an organized environment really does equal an organized brain, so just kind of keep that in mind. If you're ever thinking about your workspace and how you should model it. So here's the desk tour, like I was talking about. We have, the nice fairy lights for ambiance, okay? I have my tea that I always have with me for hydration or whatever, skincare. And then I have a nice sign and pencils, wow. And then I have a succulent for more decor and another sign. This one's a little saucy, okay, a little attitude in there. And then more decor, because we just like decorations. In drawer number 1, we got all my cords in a mesh bag, okay, for organization, because I will lose them 100%. On the other side here, we have more art supplies. Yeah, that's more just for after school purposes. But yeah, and then in the middle, we got the main event, the big papa, my laptop, where 99.9% of my productivity happens. So yeah, there you have it. There's my desk. Important topic that I want to talk about is task organization. This is something that a lot of students struggle with, especially as it comes to exam seasons, or you're in a part of the semester where there's a lot of assignments coming at you. A lot of students kind of struggle with this and get overwhelmed. So the first image that I really want to talk about is this to-do list here. This is taken from one of my friends. She's an engineer. This is her life as a student at McMaster Engineering. She's got a lot going on. This hurt me, like physically hurt me when I saw it. This is such a typical thing, like just going with a regular to-do list. But what happens with this is it's just kind of overwhelming. You don't have a lot of things prioritized, and it just kind of becomes like a lump of more reminders, really, than organization to move you more towards getting your tasks done. So some other things, some benefits of being a little bit more organized in your tasks is that it increases your concentration. So say you move towards having like a smaller to-do list, something like that, a more prioritized to-do list, then you have less things to concentrate on, which when you have less to focus on, you're able to put more energy into those certain things and then get them done, and then you can move on to the next things. You also feel less overwhelmed. Going back to this list here, this is overwhelming. This is incredibly overwhelming. It's something that a lot of students have though, but if we go 1 or 2 things at a time, which I'll be showing in the next part of this, then you can feel a lot less overwhelmed. And then it also aids in planning and thus you get better work quality of work. So if you're only concentrating on like 1 or 2 tasks in a day and then moving on to the next tasks at a later time, and you're well organized so that you can do that, then you're going to get better quality work in the end of it. I'm going to be talking about an exercise that can help you to prioritize that, super long list, break it down into sections. I used kind of a smaller list, just based off some random examples from my life. But yeah, this exercise could be really helpful for those of you who have super long, unmanaged to-do lists. So take a look. To do for this exercise is just lay out your 3 cue cards with your nice labels: I must, I should, and I could. And these are going to be the categories for your priorities this week, with I must being what you really, really want to get done this week, and I could being stuff that is kind of optional. We could push it off to next week, but if we got it done this week, it would just kind of be like a bonus. So the first one, I must, with my priorities, I showed as an example for you guys to see. This week, I absolutely must tutor, so that's my job. I do 5 sessions a week, and I check them off as I go, so I've done 1 this week already, checked. Good. And then I have a paper due on Friday and an assignment due on Friday. So I'll be checking those off as I go this week. Those are my number 1 priorities. The next thing that we have here is things that I should do. So if I have the time, I really should get these done. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to be mad at myself if I don't get these done. But I should register for school. Yep, definitely should do that. Register for next semester. I'm still in university, so that's important. Track my food and call my dad. I could, so these are things that I'm really not that crazy about doing, but I could do them. I could go buy books. With the libraries being closed, I find that that's really important, is to consistently be buying books for mental health purposes. So yeah, that's kind of those, and I keep those on my desk for the majority of the week. As a side note, if you're more visual, then you can definitely write it on a whiteboard and hang it on your wall. About, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about before, is doing weekly scheduling. So this is something that can really help students get a look at their week, feel less overwhelmed if you have, a whole assignment list, such as this one coming up. And yeah, we'll take a look. In the next part of this, I'm going to be going through an exact example of how I do my weekly schedules, like in very strenuous detail. That part's a little long, so this, if you just want to know the tips and then do it yourself, this is like my go-to best tips. So the first thing is do it hour by hour. So get a template that shows the exact hours of every day for the full 7 days, and schedule your life hour by hour. That way, at least even if you don't end up doing things hour by hour, you have a goal, and there's always something that you should be doing. You know when you should be doing your stuff. Include time to do the assignments as well as when the assignments are due. So yeah, that's always helpful. I find that people sometimes when they're making these schedules will just put when their assignment has to be handed in, and then not include time to do the assignment, which can be really troubling. Okie dokie, so here we have my weekly schedule. I try to do them as much as I can, and the students that I work with, I always really encourage them to do it to help organize yourself. So this is a template that I just found on Google. Like, you can pull up any one that you like the best, but you just start by putting the week, the date, the first date of the week that you're going to be doing this for in the top. And then, the description would be weekly schedule. I keep this on my desktop all week, and I refer back to it quite often. I find it to be very helpful. The first thing that I do when I'm starting is I go to the very bottom and I write out a to-do list, just so that I don't forget to input anything into my calendar. I find that to be really helpful and important in terms of keeping myself organized. And like I said, just making sure that nothing gets forgotten, especially, when I have a lot to do in a certain week, it's nice to have them right now. So there, my priorities for this week are tutoring, I have an internship that I'm in right now, and I have 2 classes that I also have to get done. So there. So we can see, going back up to the top, I'm just writing in all of the days that I work. That's obviously the first priority for those days. I can't really shift that around. So every day that I see that I work, I just put it in to begin with and then just have it out of the way. I know I'm doing this, at a quite slow speed just so that anyone out there that's also doing this, so you can kind of do it at the same time. So there, tutoring is all on there, so I can delete that off the to-do list and move on to inputting my internship days. So here I have, I had originally put internship, but it's actually I'm in class that day. So I have an internship meeting with my coordinator, so that's always interesting. I talk to her for however long, and then after I input that, I also have a class that day. So I'll be going straight into my Indigenous Studies class, and that will also be put into my calendar. On Mondays, I also have a communications class that I do. So there I am just inputting that class. I also really like to color coordinate. I find that it helps make the schedule less boring to look at. So if you're like me and you like colors, then this is for you. Make sure you color coordinate. Another thing that I find really important is scheduling in when you're going to do your readings and your assignments. That can oftentimes get away from students, so there I am writing in when exactly I'm going to do my readings for Indigenous Studies, because that does usually take up a considerable amount of time, usually more than the class time for me with doing assignments, like especially if I have more than one thing to do that week. So definitely, if you want to write in your assignments, go ahead and do that right now, along with your readings, because those do take up a lot of time. Then I have a comms readings, so those are going in there. The week fills up pretty quick if you start looking at all the little details, which I like to do on this calendar. And then there I am realizing that it's not the same shade of blue and changing it over. And writing in my assignments for this week. I like to highlight them and make them red. A lot of assignments are due at midnight, as many of you other students will know. So I write them in for when they're actually due, and then I also write in when I'm going to do them so that I don't get caught last minute. So there I am zooming out, taking a look at the week. Looks pretty busy, but now that it's all laid out, it seems a little bit more manageable, I find. And then what's also really important to remember to do is to block off time just for yourself that you're not going to feel bad about doing. I find it to be really important for me, just so that I don't end up procrastinating and then spilling into time that's just blank. Having it be set as like, no, this is my time when I'm going to chill out, then it's not an empty space that you can push other work into. It is booked. So if that is something that you need, then there's another idea for making sure that you don't do too much. And that's it. No more to-do list. Yay! So that's it for the week. So I just save it and then I refer back to it whenever I can throughout the week. Thing that I have to talk about today. This is a little bit of an overview. Some of the key things that we talked about was the I must, I should, I could as a really good organization tool. Building a weekly schedule also helps with procrastination, organizing yourself, that kind of thing. And then the last thing that I felt was really important was in terms of memory. We talked about that Mind Palace and having a really organized workplace to build those memory connections in your brain. So that's everything that I want to talk about today. Thank you for watching.